you understood a little bit about Jesus when you're in the New Age, but you had a false perspective
Gosh,
of
yeah.
Jesus. Can you just explain a little bit, like, who did you think Jesus was before?
So kind of like we were talking about, like the feminine and the masculine, like how it's presented, especially in the book Magdalene Manuscript, and then like in my own demonic visions, is
Mhm.
like Jesus is the masculine, Mary Magdalene is the feminine. And this is what they teach in that book. In order for Jesus to have laid the death portal, that's what they call like, his sacrifice. He had to do sex magic of Isis with Mary Magdalene in order to have his, I don't even know what they like, his charge, his like magnetic charge in order to
Mhm.
like lay the death portal. And it talks about how they had a daughter named Sarah, and like, so I, it's like so much blasphemy, but like I used to like invite these demons that would present themselves as Jesus and Mary Magdalene, like to have like spiritual sex with them, like threesomes, like with them in order to
Wow.
like they were like healing my sexual trauma through like engaging with them in that way.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, I've heard, with the divine feminine and masculine, but I'd never heard Jesus be tied into that. Like, for me, when I was in the New Age, like, even hearing the name Jesus, like, set me into a panic attack. Um, but I know some people, like, I did used to go to some witchcraft circles where she would have, like, all the Hindu gods and goddesses and also Jesus on the wall, and, so I know that there is, like, a false New Age version of
Yeah,
Jesus as well, and I think that's probably one of them, um,
yeah,
though
definitely.
there's many.
Yeah, like the Christ consciousness and like ascended master Jesus and like, and yeah, so I like took that being a part of what I was into, like sacred sexuality, tantra, and I was like, wow, like this is like the version of Jesus that I get to put energy to in order to like heal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard you talk a little bit about your encounter with a demon that was posing as Mary Magdalene. Um, I would just be interested in you sharing a little bit about that. Like, I just really wanna lay the point down, especially for these girls who maybe don't even understand, like, the occult world or, like, the spiritual practices of it, but just the demonic influence of, like, the pop culture Cardi B's and Nicki Minaj's and, like, just, like, this vision that so many girls, like, they wanna be like this, and they don't realize this demonic influence. So I would just love for you to share your encounter of the demon that posed as Mary.
Yeah. So that was it was before I moved to Costa Rica, I remember. And it was before I really started going like hard in my business, like really like showing myself. I was doing some, but it's like this really sparked it even more to like get into what I was doing in my business and what I was teaching.
Mm,
So I was reading Mary Magdalene, Magdalene Revealed at the time. And I used to do these like shamanic breathwork journeys to heal my trauma. And, there's no drugs or anything involved. I literally used to just put in the headphones and like set up a space and go through these like hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hour long like breathwork journeys where like you are breathing in a certain way, which is not normal. Like we don't breathe like that normally. So
yeah,
like why would, but like supposedly like this is how you like release trauma and stuff. But it was also presented that you can go on these journeys and like have these visions in order to like heal specific parts of you or whatever.
yep,
So now like being with the Lord, it's like seeing that I was using my breath as a form of witchcraft to go to basically put myself in a trance to open myself up to demonic activity.
yeah,
I did this one journey and I just remember like I was in a field and it was everything was black and white and Mary Magdalene was there and she was like presented as like a very like sexy, sexual, erotic woman and like at the time I was like saying like I'm bisexual because like I when I was younger I had encounters with girls. Like I was always like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm attracted to girls and guys. Like and it's like she completely seduced me like with her body and like I just remember like her breasts were like really full and she was and like long black hair and she was laying in this field and she like I was laying on her lap and she was like just touching my hair and like just seducing me and she was
Yeah.
like you are going to be devoted to me now and I was like yeah like of course like like, of course I'm going to do whatever you want me to do. And it was
Yeah.
like after that vision coming out of it, I was just so enwrapped in like, I am meant to be doing like rose medicine, I would call it, and like using roses and worshiping roses and just like divine feminine temple prostitute, like priestesshood. Like, I went
Yep.
like fully into all of that stuff. And it really just impacted my entire experience in the new age. And it was just sick because I was like, thought it was like me. I was like, I'm so
Yep.
powerful. Like, I had this vision. And it's like, no, I was just vulnerable and deceived, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, she spoke this purpose over your life. I had a similar thing with alien demons that presented themselves. It sounds so crazy,
I
but
know.
oh my gosh, they presented themselves as, like, this sexy Catwoman and told me my
I
purpose.
remember hearing that in your. It's so funny how
Yes,
similar.
and they were like, "You are meant for sex work." Like, this is what they told me. So, like, going back to, like, what pleasure, what would you say that these demons get out of convincing us of these things, that we're meant to live in sexual sin and our purpose is in sex work? Like, what is their pleasure? What would you say their goal is?
Their goal is to get us in bondage to sin, and like accepting sin and making it normal, right? That's what we see
Yeah.
with like OnlyFans, and it's like
Mhm.
harboring on women's desire, like it's harboring on like money wounds, like it's all just like wrapped up in that. So like Satan doesn't care if we worship him; he just wants us to be living in sin. And
Yeah.
you know, when it comes to sexual trauma and why so many women who have been traumatized in that way get into sex work and deceived by these things is what I believe is we did not have control when that happened, right? Like we didn't have control over
Mhm.
some of our situations, like and sex magic is a way to control. You're using witchcraft and you're able to kind of redeem that experience that you felt so out of control and now be in control. And
Yeah.
that's like how it's presented from Satan is like here you can control your sexuality and you could actually use it to like get things that you want and it's just lust of the flesh.